Hi, I'm Sarah Hyndman. I'm a designer researcher, I'm a speaker, and I'm an author. I wrote the book Why Fonts Matter, and now I've moved on to exploring how our site links to all of our different senses. This has been 12 years of multisensory mass participation experiments, and now it's led me to setting up a podcast all about what happens when we see and how it links to our senses. So my whole career has been just about finding things that are interesting. I began as a screen printer, then worked my way up through industry, ended up running my own business for 10 years. I really needed a year out just to fall back in love with what I was doing again. So that was when I started type tasting, to explore typography, but through the lens of how we don't usually talk about it. So exploring it through how it links to what we taste, how it conjures up different emotions. And just discovered that if you get outside of your own discipline and you start kind of looking a little bit wider, there's all of this really interesting stuff happening, and there are these really big overlaps. But we have to jump outside to start finding where these are happening. Bringing in the sense of smell, bringing in the sense of sound, because these are things that have much more emotional resonance. When we're working on screen, obviously sonic branding or thinking about theme tunes. If we think about watching a movie and you turn the soundtrack down, a horror movie is suddenly almost more like pantomime. And smell is really fascinating because there's loads of studies that now show if it's a smell that you already know. So if I say the word cinnamon and I ask you to imagine the smell of a cinnamon bun, there is a little bit, an olfactory area in your brain that's now going doo-doo, and it's rehearsing what cinnamon smells like. So if we think about how we can cue these sensory ideas in and use language and imagery, we can start incorporating all of the different senses. The advice I would give to designers who want to integrate sensory elements into their practice is, I'm sure you're probably already all doing it, but to be more confident about it. So a lot of the time, if we're sitting there coming up with ideas in sketchbooks, we will maybe be doing that as an idea gathering thing, but to then understand that this is a proper discipline that you can then apply to the whole process. You can think about the strategy, you can start looking into the science of actually if you want to, so sight is the thing that makes a first impression, so it will catch somebody's attention, provided it's salient, provided it's the thing that they're looking for in that moment in time. But then if you want to think about how to make an emotional connection, then you're starting to think about how can you add smell, how can you add sound. But the really important thing is also to make sure that it's all congruent, to think about synergy, to make sure that it all fits together. So you're not just adding more and more and more, because more is not more is just sensory chaos. So sometimes it's about taking some things away and just thinking about how do you balance all of these different elements. So I think one of the things that we can all do, and it's one of the beauties of being a graphic designer, is we get to ask all of these questions. We work with so many different clients that we kind of role play all of these different industries. And if we lead with our curiosity at every single step, why can't we just go and study neuroscience because we want to, or talk to a professor about, well, why does this jagged shape make me taste something sour, or why does that make me feel like this? So just asking lots of questions, and then what I find is that opens up these really interesting avenues, and you end up with this career that ends up in places that are exciting but you would never ever have envisaged at the outset.